Hello everyone, there is a problem with my old fat PS5 model. It simply refuses to connect to the 5G network. Well, sometimes it does connect, but the speed is very slow, and this makes the remote play function nearly unusable. I don't have an Ethernet cable on my living room, and this leaves me with no options. So I ended up buying another PS5. This time is a slim model, and this one can connect to the 5G with no problems. The connection speed is good and remote play works as it should. Now I plan to sell the older model, but since it has this connection problem, I would have to drop the price. So I wondered how hard it would be to fix it myself and sell it without the price cut. The PS5 is pretty easy to disassemble. It was made with the intention that the user could open it and clean it up. And looking at the disassembly videos, everything seems easy to remove. The console is very modular. The only problem is that there is a lot of screws, so you have to have patience. So I went through the entire process and here's the motherboard. It was pretty clean and it didn't have any dust inside. The APU is here in the center. The good news is that we don't need to disassemble anything around here, so there's zero chances of spilling the liquid metal inside. The Wi-Fi chip is right here in the corner, and this is what we need to fix. It's hard to read here, but the letter says J20H100, and I was happy to see that this part is very cheap, only $12 online. I decided to give it a try and replace this thing by myself. After a few weeks, the chip arrived and it's brand new. But the problem is, there's no solder balls underneath it. This also means that we'll have to reball this chip ourselves. The chip pads have 1mm of diameter, and in my local shop I only found the 0.4mm solder balls, and they're very small. But I think we can still use them. Then you might be wondering why not add solder manually to the pads. The explanation for this is that if we add the solder manually, the solder amount between the pads will be uneven, and the chip might sit at an angle on the motherboard. As the console heats up, everything expands, and this can lead to cracked joints and a connection failure. With the solder balls, we can ensure that every pad has the same amount of solder, and the chip will be flush with the motherboard. So I started by adding a layer of flux to the chip, making sure that every pad is covered. Then it's time to add the solder balls. It should be an easy task, but since my solder balls were smaller, I had to manually add exactly 4 solder balls to each pad. And now with a heat gun, I could melt the solder balls and they would fuse into a bigger one. Okay, now that the chip is reballed, we have to remove the one on the PS5. I covered everything around the chip with Kapton Tape for protection and started at 400 degrees. I applied light pressure on the side of the chip and waited for the whole thing to heat up. I spent a lot of time in this temperature and the solder on the chip would simply not melt. Then I remembered that the solder that Sony uses on the console is not leaded, and it requires a higher temperature to melt. So I increased the heat gun to 500 degrees, and still it was very hard to remove. I didn't want to give up yet, so I just moved the nozzle closer to the chip and waited more. I didn't expect it, but the lid of the chip came out. At this point, it was make it or break it, so I kept heating it up. And finally, the chip started coming off. Thankfully, none of the pads on the motherboard were lifted. Now I had to remove this horrible solder and clean up all of the pads. And now it's time to place the new chip and solder it back to the motherboard. This time I used leaded solder, so I decreased the temperature to 450 degrees, and I wanted to make sure that every solder ball underneath it was completely melted. So I took my time and kept heating the chip for a few minutes longer. Finally, I reassembled everything and tested the connection speed, and to my surprise, it was way better. So indeed, the Wi-Fi chip was the problem, and now remote play on the fat model was also perfectly fine. I could have tried fixing it at the first time, but buying the slim model wasn't a bad idea. It's a bit smaller and more efficient than the fat model, and now I can just sell the fat model without cutting the price too much. Anyway, this video was just to share my experience fixing this console. And it's a nice example that if you're willing to have the tools around, it can save you a lot of money repairing consoles. A game repair shop would charge me around $150 for this fix, and I managed to do it myself for just $12. And if you have this problem as well, now you know what you gotta do. And that's it for today's video. I'll be leaving all of the links to the tools that I used in the description of this video. As always, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.